Shalom, shalom, which means peace in the ancient Hebrew. First and foremost, before we get started, I want to give all the praises, the glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakwadash. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, the true name in the ancient Hebrew. And Yahweh Shai is the name of his only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Okay, and today is going to be a lesson that's entitled Many Italians, Irish, Scottish, and Greeks are black people, meaning Israelites, in white bodies. Okay, and we have to speak like that because people don't understand the term Israelite. They don't understand the term Edomites. Okay, so we have to speak in the terms that the majority of these of the people of the world understand. Right now, when you read the Bible, the Heavenly Father, he came for one people. Okay, he created one people to be a special people unto himself. And those people are known as the Israelites. Okay, today, the concentration of them, right, as we have on the sign, will be the so-called blacks, African Americans, Jamaicans, Haitians, so on and so forth. Caribbean peoples, the Latinos, all right, and the Native Americans, okay, that descend from the indigenous people. Okay, those are the 12 tribes of Israel. But as is written in prophecy, we would be scattered around the whole world. Okay, so you have to follow the storyline of the Israelites to understand where we're going with this, because this may sound crazy to many of you people just listening now. How can I be black? I look white. See, that's because your mind is not, you're not spiritual yet. Okay, and trust me, you don't want to be an Edomite. All right, you don't want to be an Edom. You better hope that you descend from the Israelites, from the so-called black people, these Israelites, or Native Americans, or so-called indigenous Latinos, because those are the people that the Heavenly Father is dealing with, and he created to be glorified in the last days. All right, ultimately after his son Yahweh Shai comes back. So I say that to say this: these people that you see on the screen, these are so-called Moorish peoples. Okay, and they ruled Europe for 1,000 years. Okay, and these are Israelites, right? And these are, a lot of these are true, real images, okay, that has been hidden. All right, and that's why you have a lot of these Italian people. They have that dark hair and the dark eyes, because they descend from those people. Okay, now I'm going to show you in the scriptures. When I say the scriptures, I'm talking about the Holy Bible, that this was part of the curse, that we would be scattered. Okay, all right, this is Deuteronomy 28 and verse 15. Oh, matter of fact, let me share the tab. Okay, it says here, consequences of disobedience, Deuteronomy 28 and 15, and it reads, okay, just making sure that the mic is on. It says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power. The reason I say Yahweh is because this word here, when you see Lord in all caps, the word in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh. Okay, so when I change certain words, there's a reason behind it. All right, it says the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So this was a contract we as his people, his sons, made with him, the Heavenly Father, when we came out of Egypt. Okay, we came out of Egypt, we made a contract with him to do exactly what he said to do his commandments and follow his laws, right? But what happened? We broke those commandments. So what happened? The curses came upon us that we're reading about for the breach of contract. Okay, it says, cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field, right? When you have the ghettos, you have the who's in the ghettos, so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, right? You're in the low income housing. You grow up. It's a custom for you in general to grow up in a struggle, if you will. Okay, right. So, and that's for a lot of you so-called Italians, Irish, whatever. Even if you look like a so-called white person, you may not be from the places that we say. You may still be an Israelite, right? And you may still be going, and that may be why these curses. That may be why your life was the way it was, because we're under curses at the particular moment until Yahushua takes them off of us. Okay. Now, like I said, you have certain exceptions to the rules. You have Israelites, obviously, that grew up in, middle income houses, high upper middle class, also that had so-called parents with a lot of money, right? That does not exempt them from the curses that are from the other curses that are written in this book. Okay, you understand? Because it's very, very rare to find an Israelite that had that money from being passed down. It's very rare. It's usually they would have to have got it from the mud in that particular by themselves, the first or second generation. Okay, whereas these Edomites, okay, in these other nations, they would have generations of wealth that to pass down. A lot of times. Okay, it says, "Cursed shalt thou be in the city, cursed shalt thou be in the field, cursed shall be thy basket in thy store," and that represents the businesses. Okay, right? Meaning you'd have trouble with that. Okay, so let's go down to verse 64, because this is the point that I wanted to make anyway. This is Deuteronomy 20, and there's a lot that I could go into, but obviously, for the sake of time, I'm not going to do a 15-hour live stream, but there's so much to know when it comes to this knowledge and truth that you can drown in it. So if you're just coming into this truth, stick with the basics, right? Get the foundation of this, and then move forward. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 64. It says, "And Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease." Right? So the Lord scattered us amongst these different people. And amongst these people, we found no ease, because these are not our people. We don't have the same spirit as these people. "Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind." You will have constant trouble amongst those people. "And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life." Okay. Right? Why? Because you're amongst enemies, right? Just like the so-called Negro when in 67 AD, when the besieging of Jerusalem happened, siege, right? Many Israelites fled, right? When you could read, there's many books on that. Many of the Israelites fled into the interiors of Africa, right? Because, well, guess what? The so-called Africans, a lot of them look like the so-called Negro, right? There's obviously distinctions, but they look, in general, they could blend amongst them to some level, some degree, in look wise, not in apparel or things like that, because we had our own particular customs. But amongst them, we constantly had trouble. And eventually what happened, they got together, right? And including a lot of wicked Israelites, right? And the so-called Arabs, the Ishmaelites, and sold us unto the Edomites, the so-called white people, okay? Which the so-called white people was behind all of that. So, ultimately, that's what it was, because ultimately those were our enemies. And they knew that they were coming to get the Israelites when they came to the west coast of Africa. And it wasn't just the west coast of Africa that we went into slavery in. A lot of our people came directly from Portugal and Spain, because, as I said, the Moors were ruling in those areas. So once they got taken down, right? You can watch the movie 1492. Christopher Columbus mentions it, the last stronghold of Granada, being taken down, and he mentioned how beautiful the Israelite culture was, which was so-called Moors at that time, right? He said they had a beautiful culture. Yeah, we had a beautiful culture, of course, because our culture, we are the sons of God. Okay, we are the Israelites, right? So that's some brief history, Salakia, and I want to show the screen. I was talking about these people when I said, that we were taken from Portugal and Spain and put into slavery as well. That was part of the transatlantic. That was part of the slave trade as well. Okay, the so-called blacks that were taken from Portugal and Spain, but they don't speak about that because a lot of questions would come up. What were these black people doing in Portugal and Spain? Then they would have to go into the history of the fact that we ruled Europe for 1,000 years. They don't want to go into that. So, coming back to this one, let's go to Deuteronomy 7:6, right? To show you that we're a special people unto the Lord, and that will never change, first and foremost. Okay, this is Deuteronomy 7:6. It says, "For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy power, and Yahweh thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth." This is why we excel at everything. Okay, no matter what they say, oh, they can't excel at this, they can't. We excel at everything. If you put everything on an even playing field, we would take over the same way we took over Europe for that 1,000-year period. Okay, you see, which that started ultimately was the Roman Empire that we took over when you go into the history, but that's a whole nother story. Okay, but there is a scriptures on that, because it showed that these Edomites, which are the so-called white people predominantly, they were taken out of power by the Heavenly Father. Let's go to Revelations, the 20th chapter, for a certain period of time. This is Revelations 20 and verse 1. It says, "And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years." That's speaking about the Edomites. Okay, this is not speaking about the spiritual demon Satan, nor is it speaking about an actual snake, because it wasn't an actual snake in the garden. It was a man with snake-like characteristics. Remember, the Bible a lot of times is spoken in allegories. Okay, there's a lot of allegories or slang, if you will, right? The way we talk as Israelites, right? You know how the so-called black people talk, and even the so-called Latinos will use different words for different that mean different things. Like for a house, it says crib, which that's in the Bible. It says Isaiah 1:5. It mentions, us not knowing our crib, right? So the ox knoweth his master. The ass. Excuse me, Slakia. The ox knoweth his owner, the ass his master's crib, which us as Israelites will take that and we'll use that for what? Our house, our abode, right? Different things like that. Okay. So it's, those are allegories as well. So the Bible is written the same way. It says, so the serpent was speaking about a particular man. It says, "This pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him." And a lot of these Italians do the same thing, right? Because I grew up around a lot of Italians. They do this. They do similar things. They'll have these little words for different things as well, different slangs and things like that, right? It says what the Edomites do is they'll copy it. They'll hear it from us, and what they'll do is they'll copy it. At first they'll look at it with disdain, but then eventually they'll copy, right? It says just like the music, right? It says, "And cast him into the bottomless pit." So he cast these Edomites into the bottomless pit. That represents Europe. This is not speaking about some abyss. Okay, represents Europe because it lacks natural resources. So it was described as a bottomless pit, and shut him up and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. So he was not able to come into power and deceive the nations until what? Until that 1,000 years was fulfilled. The 1,000 years of what? The 1,000 years of us ruling Europe. That's why you have the Moors. That's why also the Saxons, Okay, you go into Henry, the line of the Henrys. Okay, Henry II, Henry I. These were Israelites. These were so-called black men. Okay, you go into the concept of Santa Claus, Saint Nick. That was a so-called black man. Saint Nicholas, who was giving out gifts to the kids. All right, the children. Okay, which that's where they get the concept of Santa Claus. But who do they paint up as Santa Claus now? A so-called white person. Right, that all goes back to Edomite supremacy, man. So-called white supremacy. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. He was loosed a little season around the time of Christopher Columbus, man. That's when he began to be loosed. Of course, it was a process of time, but he began to be loosed, right, and come back into power during the Renaissance period. And what did he do when he did that? Let's go to Job 9 and 24. But I'm trying to give you the understanding of the history real quick, okay? So that you see if the Lord is with you. If the Lord is not with you and you're not an Israelite, you're not going to see it, right? Or you might see it, but it's not. You vibe with this, and what? You're an Israelite, all right? You can understand this truth. You're an Israelite. This is Job 9 and 24. I don't care how you look, it doesn't make any difference. As many as okay. Look at Michael Jackson's children. They look like so-called white people, but they're Israelites based upon what? Based upon their father. And I'm going to get into that in a second. This is Job 9 and 24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Okay. If he's not, if the earth was given into the hands of the wicked, like I read to you, he was loosed a little season. Now the earth is in his hands. This is why the earth is so evil and wicked. Okay, because these Edomites are ruling, which are the wicked people, right? Malachi 1 and 4, right? It says he covered the faces of the judges thereof. What does that mean? That means he would take these images of so-called black people and paint them over white. That's covering the faces of the judges. The true judges of the earth are the Israelites. Okay, starting with the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and the Son, Yahweh Shai. So they painted them as so-called white people. Let's go to this blasphemous image. All right, hold on. Let me finish this off. He says he covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Let's go to this blasphemous image, a famous image known as finger of God. This is a wicked, evil image. Okay, this is not how the Most High looks. This is not how the Heavenly Father looks, and this is not how His Son looks, man. Okay, this is complete 100% blasphemy, and the Heavenly Father is very angry with this. As a matter of fact, okay, you know what? Okay, good. Okay, as you can see here, white old Edomite. Okay, and he has this pale skin, and then you got Adam with a micro penis. This is blasphemous, man. And he's pale as well. No, Adam was a so-called black man. He wasn't walking. You got to understand the Bible. Okay, spiritual, man. All right, and the Heavenly Father definitely didn't look like this. Okay. Oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. Well, we can go to Daniel's. We can go to Daniel's, the 9th chapter. It describes the Heavenly Father. This is Daniel 7 and verse 9. It describes a portion of the Heavenly Father here. It says, I beheld till the thrones were that cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. Who's the Ancient of Days? The Heavenly Father, meaning he didn't have a beginning or an end. It says, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. What is the woolly hair texture? So-called black people here, an afro. That's woolly hair texture. Okay. His stone was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as the burning. Okay. Let's go to Daniel's the 10th chapter, which describes his son. Okay. This is Daniel 10, and then we're going to go to Revelation, showing you that his son didn't look like that, and he loins was girded on, and that's not speaking about his actual body. It's speaking about his the clothing that he wore, because he didn't show himself naked. Come on, man, that's vile. That's that's madness, man. Okay, okay. He was in glory. He showed himself. He showed himself with a green garment on. You have to have that understanding. It says, and his face as the appearance of lightning. That was that shining. His face was shining, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass. What color is brass? Brass is brown, dark brown. Okay. And the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. And it even went deeper when it came to this brass. When you go into Revelations 1 and 13, this is Revelations 1 and verse 13, and it reads, with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool. Remember, it said the Heavenly Father's hair was like the pure wool. So is the son's hair. It's like the pure wool. He has that afro, that white afro. Okay, as white as snow, as if it burned, meaning past tense, burned in a furnace, meaning it was dark brass. Okay, meaning he was a dark skinned man. It's a dark so-called black man with a white afro. So you can understand. That's how the Heavenly Father looks, and that's how his son looks, as we're reading here. And his voice as the sound of many waters. He didn't have that voice that when you watch the depictions of the Lord, right? Come, my son, come, my child. He didn't have that type of voice. He had a very powerful, like a so-called Negro, a so-called Negro with a powerful, deep voice. That's the type of voice the Heavenly Father and his son has. Okay. So now that that's out of the way, okay, now that that's out of the way, how do you determine whether you're an Israelite? First of all, you have to be of the seed of Israel. Let's go to Numbers 1. And the seed comes from what? It comes from who? Your mother, your father. It comes, or your father, your mother. It comes from your father. Okay, that's who the seed comes from. It comes from your father. The mother does not, to confuse the people. Okay, your nationality, your nation, and tribe is only determined through your father. Okay, and that shows you that those people in the land calling themselves, you know, you know what I'm talking about, Jewish, those are not the true people, because they go but based upon their mother. All right, and there's a lot of things they go off on that prove that they're not the true descendants for the most part. This is Numbers 1 and 18. It says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees, meaning their lineage, okay, their lineages, after their families by the house of their father. So depending on which father, whose house their father came from, meaning what tribe their father was from, that's what tribe they were from, according to the number of the names from the 20 years old and upward by their polls. Simple and plain. When you got the 12 tribes of Israel, what is that? Judah, Benjamin, Levi, all the way to Issachar. Those are the names of the patriarchs, the men, okay, of whose seed these people came from. Okay, so it all has to do with the man's seed. Who is your forefathers? And I'm saying a lot of you so-called Irish, Italian, Greeks, Scottish, so on and so forth, right? Even other places, because guess what? We ruled all of Europe, okay? But right now I'm dealing with the so-called white-looking people, all right? You have a lot of so-called Asian, so-called Chinese, so-called Japanese. Most of them Filipinos are Israelites through the Spirit, okay? There was a slave trade there where a lot of our people were brought there. A lot of the East Indians are Israelites. There's a lot of Arabs that are Israelites, so-called. Okay, it's all about the spirit. Not all of them, not all of Italians, not all Irish, not all any people. Okay, but there is a certain class of you through the spirit that are actually our people, that are actually Israelites. Okay, and like I said, Salakia, it's all about the seed, right? Let's get this blasphemous image off of there. It's all about the seed. If your forefather was one of these Israelites, and then you came in, and then through their line, you know, after whatever 2 generations, you look like a so-called white person if he deals with white women, so-called white women, which a lot of the Moors did. When you go to the history, the Moors like blue-eyed, blonde-haired woman. It's like a lot of these jakes deal with today. Okay, you see what I'm saying? And guess what? Even though their seed came out looking light and then looking like so-called white people, they're still Israelites. Like you got the rapper Logic, for example. Let's go to this rapper. Oh, I'm not even on the tab. Let me share this tab real quick. I was talking about if your forefather looked like this individual here. Okay, but your mother may have looked like an Edomite. The mother does not determine who you are. Okay, it's your father that determines your lineage. And I'm saying a lot of you descend have forefathers that look like that. See, this is the Sicilians. This is Sicily. See, it says the Moors of Sicily. Look how this person looks. Got that dark. Let's guess what? Even though they look like so-called maybe uh, look kind of like Arabic, ceramic, Moorish. Okay, of course they colored the hair and whatever, but look at the pigment. The hell? How long was my mic muted, man? Fuck, man. How long was my mic muted, man? Slack it. How long was my mic muted? With that, I'll say shalom. How long was my mic